Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we shall continue with the āNāPāNASATI meditation, which we have already done for 2 days regarding the observation of the breath. So, if you have joined the previous 2 sessions, we advise that in order to get a good foundation or to have a easy start for this meditation, it's always better to do the counting method. Our minds are normally scattered and they prefer to go into different various objects. So it's quite difficult for us to focus on a neutral object such as like breath, which is not that much fancy. Therefore, just observing the breath, the mind would get fatigued or would fall into boredom very easily. Therefore, in the beginning, as an assistance to the focus to our concentration, we normally use the counting method. We start to count the breaths. Counting the breaths, we will be able to, with the help of the numbers, we will be able to focus on the breathing much easier than just merely looking at the breath. So we introduce some counting methods of 10 sets of 10 breaths. So we may say a set of 10s. And as the initial practice, the daily practice, initially we asked you to practice for 10 tens every day. If it is possible, you can do it for 2 sessions. So when we have counted 10 breaths, we just fold one of our fingers, the tiny finger. Then after we have finished another 10 set, we fold another finger. So likewise, counting each set of 10 breaths, we may fold our fingers. Then after completing 5 sets, after finishing the 6th set, we unfold the fingers gradually. And after completing 10s, we have completed the session. So if you have done 10 sets of 10 breaths, then we have focused on 100 breaths, which is a great achievement in terms of the nature of our mind. So after we have done this for 2 weeks, if you are doing 2 sessions per day, you can extend your breaths, the number of counting within 1 week. If you are doing just 1 session per day, then you have to at least continue for 2 weeks. After completing either 2 weeks or 1 week, based on the how many sessions you sit per day, then we increase the number. Then we move on to 15 sets. Then after another 2 weeks or 1 week, we move on to count 20 sets. So likewise, we can increase this day by day. So today we are going to do some longer sets. I hope that you were able to practice in your own to practice in your own in day-to-day life. So you were able to count more breaths. So we extend this till 50 sets. So eventually it means you will be focusing on 500 breaths. 500 breaths. The benefit of āNāPāNASATI is that by doing this, you develop a very strong attention or concentration, which would eventually help you to focus on whatever thing you do. If you're reading a book, listening to a talk, or focusing on some activity, you will be able to have an uninterrupted focus if you are capable of focusing at your breaths or counting these breaths. Therefore, āNāPāNASATI is helpful in many means. At the same time, this foundation, this concentration, the foundation of this concentration this concentration can be a good foundation for your insight meditation as well. So when the mind is not scattered, it is well focused, we will be able to contemplate on Nama and Rupa easily, and we would have a vivid understanding about the nature of the Nama and Rupa, and you will be able to see the impermanence, nature of suffering, begetting suffering, and also the non-selfness very clearly and without much effort. Therefore, and the next thing is āNāPāNASATI meditation is one of the most sweetest, one of the most blissful meditation subjects that you can ever find. More you develop, the breath would get subtler, and eventually at one time you may start not to feel the breath, because it has become subtle. When it becomes subtle, it's difficult to catch this. At that time, what we are supposed to do is we have to just focus on, we have to develop the attention on the place where we catch the breath. Eventually, you will start to see a subtle breath coming up and down. So, in the initial stages, we mentioned either we can focus at either change that happens in the body. It can be the air going inside your nose, either it's traveling through the throat, or the expansion of the chest, or expansion of the belly, or at least the idea that you are breathing in and out. Whatever it is, whatever the object that comes to your mind, if it is related to breathing, you can count this as one. You can count yourself as breathing. So, in breaths, count as one, out breath count as two. It doesn't matter whether the odds and evens. If you forget to count some breath, just ignore them, then start counting from the breaths that you would be able to catch. For instance, after you have counted 4 breaths, if you miss the 5th breath, and if you are able to focus on the next breath, you have to count it as number 5 instead of number 6. So there is no problem at all. Whatever the breath you catches, you have to count it. So therefore, I hope that the main instructions were given in the last sessions, so we can quickly go into the practice. So now, for the initial stage, we may start with counting 10 tens. We take 3 deep breaths, and then we shall start counting the breathing. I hope you were able to focus on your breath and hope you had a successful session. So while we are focusing on the breath, sometimes some may have a difficulty in catching the breath, because it is possible that some yogis may not be able to focus on the changes that happens in the body. So in that case, even if you are taking the breathing, you're doing the breathing slightly stronger, still it would not be a huge problem. Normally what is not encouraged is taking the breaths so hardly, because in the long run it can make you fatigue, and also it can cause some breathing problems. But when we are focusing on our breath, it's natural that our mind normally tries to shut down the system, like it tries to hold the system, and instead of having natural breathing, it would always make some deliberation. That is always fine, and that's how the technique works. Always when you're focusing on the breath, there is a slight intention going on in your breathing. That's not a hindrance at all, and that doesn't make your breathing āNāPāNASATI any wrong. Therefore, it's natural that you have a deliberation or intention while you're breathing, and that's quite helpful even in the beginning. So when you grow in your technique at a certain place, the body will start to naturally breathe by itself, and you will be just observing it with your mind. And for some, it will be also a door opening for understanding Nama and Rupa as two separate elements. Anyway, that's moving towards the Vipassana meditation. So what we are supposed to do, sometimes you may have fall into some sleepiness, drowsiness, or the mind would get agitated, and mind will start to think things that you have been doing recently. Don't worry about that. That's the nature of the mind. So in order to stop this, in order to get out of this defilement, the trap of defilements, there's nothing other than practicing consistently. So whenever daily you have to follow your schedule, and whatever the obstacles or whatever the duties you have to keep on practicing every day. Only then you will develop this energy of the mind that would overcome the agitation and all the defilements. So then we'll move on to another session. This time you can sit with comfort. If your legs are paining, you can go into sit on a chair. That's not a problem. So we may start focusing on 20 sets. So we shall increase. So in the end of today's session, we may have a very long counting session because we have been doing this. I hope you have been doing this for the following month, and so you have already developed a certain potency to focus on longer sessions. So we shall move on to count 20 sets. So please be attentive and give a lot of mindfulness, and try determine that you will count them whatever happens. Take 3 deep breaths, relax yourself, and start counting. Hope you're able to focus on your breaths with much ease, though the session was quite long compared to the previous one. Sometimes you may feel sort of mental fatigueness while focusing on a higher number. It shows that our minds are not ready to be focused on, well focused on a single object for a longer period. That is the stamina that we have to build. As we develop stamina in our bodies, that would enable us to run for long distances. For that, we have to keep on increasing our lengths step by step. We just cannot just run for kilometers or marathon just in the beginning. We have to develop this lengths gradually. So likewise, our minds are not ready to focus on to be fixed on one object for a longer period. So that's why we have to develop this length gradually. That is the reason why we instruct to increase the numbers every week, once a week, every week or every fortnight. But the thing is, in order to build this stamina, to be able to run for long distances, you have to keep on running every day, each and every day, and develop this ability, the stamina in the body. So likewise, in order to develop the stamina in our mind, we have to focus on breaths every day, daily, as a daily routine, as an habit. So we will be gradually developing this capacity of focusing at one single object. Now imagine if someone is able to be well focused on a single object for hours, for days, how much capacity he has developed in his mind. And that has to be done gradually. So it's a great achievement that if you can be well fixed on a certain object. But this cannot be achieved overnight. What we have to do is to keep on practicing consistently, like we gain the physical strength or the physical stamina. Therefore, we should not be discouraged. Even your mind is scattering here and there while you're focusing. That would be the nature. What we have to do is just consistently keep on practicing. So eventually, at a later stage, your mind would get used to this and it will be purified from the defilements and it will be able to focus on the objects much easier than before. With this, we shall move on to another session. Now here we did 10 tens and 20 sets. Now we shall move on to count for 40 sets. Instead of doing 30, I would like to increase the number in double. So because after 50 we don't normally count, because then if you are able to focus on 50 breaths after gradually practice, not just once, after practicing for some time, if you are able to focus on 50 sets, by that time surely your mind is more flexible and has got adapted to this practice. Therefore, you can increase it gradually, but now we shall give a try to 40 sets, then we'll see how it works. If you get tired, just don't worry, just keep on doing it. Even if your mind gets scattered, just keep on counting. So we will see the real nature of the mind. If you are capable of doing sadhu, so just continue with your easiness. We take 3 deep breaths and then we shall start counting. hope you had a good session, though it was quite long. But if you are able to practice something now for some long time, you will be able to focus on your breaths. It's a great achievement. If I give some tips on this, one more tip, like when you are focusing on your breath, it goes in or the body expands. Try to keep your focus wherever you are giving your attention. Even while the breath is gone in, just keep on looking at that place with your mind eye. Then it would come back. So just observing that, keeping a fixed attention at that place is vital here. So then if you can keep that attention, the in-between thoughts, the thoughts that are running in between two breaths would get lessened. Only when your focus is fixed on a certain place with constant attention, then you'll be able to practice easily and you will not feel the time running even. So I wish you all the best, and this would be the session for today. And also keep in mind, always do the 7 sevens whenever you are free. Whenever you get an opportunity, count 7 sets of 7 breaths. Like after 7, counting 7, you fold 1 finger, another 7, you fold 1 finger. So likewise, you go into 7 sets. That would be like a booster for you throughout the entire day. Do it as much as possible, even with your eyes open. Try to have 7 sevens, which would refresh your mind. So we'll conclude the session by doing a 7-7. Then we may conclude today. Take 3 deep breaths. Wish you all the best, and may you be able to practice constantly, daily, without missing any session. So wish you all the best in your spiritual practice. Buddha sasanang chiran tittatu, Buddha sasanang chiran tittatu, Buddha sasanang chiran tittatu, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.